Oh joy, oh rapture. I cannot believe it is time once again to go over Chad Thundercock Fapfictions. I remain your dashing host, Larson Halleck, here to go over the most traditional of failsonnery. Indeed, the type specimen of what middle brows think of when they hear the term failson. For those of you who are just joining us and are not familiar with this whole concept, which is to say likely none of you, let's go over some basic terms. Incel means involuntary celibate, a person, almost always a male, who feels that he cannot possibly get laid or find a meaningful relationship with the opposite sex due to his inherent failings as a potential sexual partner. Whether those failings be his ugly face, his height, his lack of confidence, his race, also known typically as rice cells or curry cells for reasons that I'm sure you can figure out, or any combination of the above. Chad, alternatively Tyrone for again racial reasons that you should be able to figure out, is the opposite of an incel. The handsome cool guy that gets girls effortlessly. He is viewed by the incel with a combo of deep-seated resentment and envy, sometimes to the point of attempting to plastic surgery themselves into a Chad. As a side note, as a lark, I once looked into the procedure of a chin implant, and it is not pretty. Like, they basically break your face in half, and ugh. Anyway, in their envy, the incels will wax poetic about Chad, write stories about Chad, or merely angst about the miserable state of their lives. Note that the concept of getting off your ass and fixing the problem is never brought up. But you didn't come here to hear me give you a sociological lecture, did you? No, of course not. You want me to go through incel nonsense. And so here we go. Most of these are taken from the now archived incel board on Reddit, as well as a few other places like Slut Hate and specific incel websites. And so without further ado, gird your loins. We're diving in. Let us see how these men view the world. I hate all of you. I hate our tall so much. Why are race preferences not okay, but height preferences are? I just learned how to tie my there's actually several people talking about how they just learned how to tie their shoelaces. Perhaps that reflects upon the incel psychology more than anything else. It is hard for me to grasp how much better women's lives are. I hate to say it, but it's not wrong. How to commit suicide to bring attention to inceldom. Entirely wrong. There's nothing wrong with preferring virgin women. Is it wrong to only want to date virgin women? Women cannot be incel. Should a guy with a below average dick size tell someone he's doing PE exercises? Physical education, I don't understand what that... Oh, shit. Should I lie about my height? Limb lengthening surgery. Anyone thought of converting to Islam to get a girlfriend? I hate all women who live in Vancouver. Oddly specific prejudice, but what the hell. Oh, and of course, what is the best non-white country for prostitution? From our hookers? Do you really need a message board for that? So basically, this is what the incels are all about. Height, virginity, physical appearance, race, prostitution, and hating Canada for some reason. I mean, personally, I find Canadians to be somewhat passive-aggressive, but I don't hate them. We start off with a bang, an incel explaining his perception of the hated enemy, woman. As the physically weaker sex, women evolve to rely on deception and manipulation as their weapons. It is simply what they do. You can always count on a woman to lie to you under certain circumstances, the same way you can count on a man to punch you in the face under certain circumstances. Now, having worked with autistic children in my life, I'm going to wager that he is very familiar with circumstances in which you punch people in the face, which is to say, I assume he regularly spurgs out and flails his fist in the air and hits people. A woman's entire view of the world is seen through the lens of her emotions. Her perception of reality will shift based on her emotional swings. Women have no innate understanding of honor or justice, because to a woman, they do not exist independently of herself. Justice is whatever is just to her. Honor is what makes her feel good about herself. Solipsism is inherent to their worldview. A woman is incapable of any sort of self-reflection or self-blame. Instead, women will find some external cause, usually a man, to blame whenever anything goes wrong for them. By placing blame externally, the woman is able to rationalize all sorts of antisocial behavior in order to help extricate herself from the situation. Do I really need to say how ironic that is? But it's not all whining about their sex lives and their race and height and what have you. The incel also gets into politics. How Trump can help incels. Women are trashy skanks. Trump is a Chad. There have been many allegations of him kissing, groping, and touching women, yet women have not only allowed him to do this, they've also been quiet about it for the most part. Except for when a tape of him admitting it got released, they began accusing him of sexual assault. This leads me to the conclusion that they enjoyed being the object of Trump's affection since he is Chad with good looks, high money, and status. Well, America has spoken, wenches. Trump is the president. Nobody cares about your cunt whine anymore. And it is now time to show them this truth. When they cry rape, their claims must be questioned instead of sympathy being offered. Again, there have certainly been false rape accusations, and there is a societal trend to just assume that women are always telling the truth. So, not wrong, but they're taking it to an unhealthy extreme. Also, I'm really upset that I can find common ground to even a small extent with these clods. A climate needs to be created where women are not glorified or worshipped by the media. We must remove them from the pedestal we've created. The second is to eliminate creep shaming. Men cannot be creeps if they are unattractive. If a woman creep shames a guy that is unattractive, she's deserving of the contempt and scorn normally directed on the man. For those of you not aware, creep shaming is a concept that these guys often espouse. Essentially, the idea is that when an ugly man hits on a woman, he'll be shamed as a creep merely due to being unattractive, whereas if a handsome man did the same thing, he would not be called a creep. Incels must be viewed as unfortunate people, deserving of sympathy, rather than seen as failures or losers. Those are not mutually exclusive, sir. Women must be seen for what they are, the greedy, selfish, evil, crazed sluts who prevent decent, hard-working men from achieving their biological purpose. I question how hard this man works outside of writing whiny Reddit diatribes. Redefining sexual assault and rape laws is key. Forced kissing, groping, and rubbing should not be punishable by law. If it is, it will be placed in a separate category, a minor infraction. If a Chad Trump can do these things, there's no reason an incel male should not be able to either. Equality is the key in order for the incel to get the sex he needs for his physical and psychological well-being. We could even take it a step further, make it so any woman that has slept with more than 50 men cannot be raped, since she will be classified as a slut. This ensures slut-shaming, preventing women from sleeping with many Chads. This will ensure even unattractive men can enjoy a slice of the pie. Getting a female drunk to have sex, along with using roofies, should be legal provided condoms are used. These all make it easier for unattractive men to have sex so every man can get a slice of the sweet American pie. I'm slightly disturbed by his repeated use of that metaphor. Lowering the age of consent is another factor. It must be lowered, maybe even as low as 14 if unattractive males are still not getting their share of the sex. I understand this came about in 2016, 2017, so clearly this man had a lot of high hopes on Trump that have utterly failed, much like the white nationalists. In all honesty, the idea of legalizing roofies and groping, I'm pretty far from a feminist, but that disgusts me. And it should disgust any decent person. Let's move on from this creep, shall we? And the politics discussion continues. Could an incel political party be viable? There is strength in numbers, after all. Then again, I must question how you could have any sort of viable political movement based on a subculture that is characterized entirely by social awkwardness and disaffected ennui. And here we have a guy who seems to think that the default form of sex is putting things in a woman's ass. If she wasn't so shallow and didn't start to panic hysterically, she would be unharmed after being raped by an incel, like after she got Chad's dick forced into her ass. Apparently, rape by a Chad is an adventure, a special moment shared between them. I'm honestly convinced that people who fetishize and use anal as their go-to are either wildly inexperienced or somewhat depraved. But let's move on. Finally. Government-mandated girlfriends. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we're implementing real change and real solutions. He says that he has Asperger's, which makes him disabled. It is legally a disability, but it's not such an overwhelming one that you'd be completely ineffectual. Dude, come on. Asperger's is a moderate form of autism. It certainly makes your life more difficult, but it's not like you're an extreme form of autism where you're walking around in circles punching yourself in the face all day. There are therapists. You can work through it, pal. Explain to me why this is a bad idea when it is the only way I will not die alone. It wouldn't matter to me if the girl was only paid to be around me. That's better than dying alone. The only way to solve it is by having being a wife or girlfriend as a government job. Apparently Asperger's makes you not know how to use conjunctions. This gentleman asks, why do they hate us? A few days ago, the bullies who despise us thought they could take our sub. Well, they ultimately did, but what the hell. Also, I just can't imagine why people would hate whiny losers who have no hobbies or interests beyond whining about how much they suck. But hey, this guy is literally comparing himself to Jesus, so maybe his self-esteem isn't so bad. The incel revolution will not be stopped. Serious question. Have the incels ever formed an actual political organization or done lectures or handed out pamphlets or anything? Because it seems to me the revolution consists entirely of whining on message boards, punctuated by an occasional violent spurg out. This guy has a Chad roommate. He hears him having sex and wishes he would die of cancer. Ladies, can't you just imagine snuggling up to this warm, loving gentleman? Or perhaps a 9-year-old girl would be more to his liking. Observe. I would question what sort of man would ever want to marry a 9-year-old girl and... Wait, what? Now compare this to the modern American marriage, where the wedding happens at age 27 and the non-virgin woman has 1 or 2 kids before her uterus shrivels up and falls out. I don't think that's how it works. Oh, for God's sake, man. Stoning? You know, $10 says that this guy is too smart for religion, and yet he advocates Old Testament punishments anyway. For the sheer brutality, of course. And here we have Juggernaut's Law, the idea that no woman could ever be an incel. While undoubtedly women do hold the majority of the cards in dating, I think this is pretty goddamn ridiculous. You know, maybe you guys can literally not refuse any woman no matter how ugly she is, but dare I say, Chads like myself have the power to turn down undesirable women. By the way, that is the only time you will ever see me refer to myself as a Chad. Also, can your scientific theories not be named after comic book characters? And no, don't even try to lie to me and tell me that you named it after the Hindu moving temple pavilions. The reason you were bullied in school stems from sexual freedom. When society is not monogamous, the effect is amplified, and guys in low-status circles will never get laid. This is why we live in such a non-inclusive culture, whose people are so stingy about who they befriend. I have my doubts about this. Perhaps the reason you were bullied is because you were a creepy weirdo who chewed food with his mouth open, and you were awkward and dorky and cried in the bathroom every day. Social circle game is legit. The people who got bullied in school end up being incel. I'm literally living proof that's not the case, but whatever. We should whip whores. I like how they refer to each other as brother, when you and I know damn well these guys would be trampling each other so fast if a decent-looking woman gave them the time of day. And all this talk about personality, do any of these guys have anything remotely resembling a nice, pleasant personality, or an interesting personality, even better? And then there's this asshole, literally saying that being in a concentration camp as a Jew would be preferable to being an incel. I mean, to say nothing of actually being in a death camp, I honestly feel like making this asshole work a 9-to-5 job in a warehouse would have him hanging himself the next day. Oh wait, did I say warehouse jobs were 9 to 5? I meant 7 to 8, as in 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Boy, I've worked some shitty jobs in my life. Anyway, today I went to the beach. It was so weird with my current mindset. Without going into too much detail here, he describes seeing future Chads at the beach and imagining what they'll be like at the ages of 15 to 17 in 2020. And wait a minute. Sir, why are you ogling 12 and 13-year-old boys? Oh, I'm probably just being hyperbolic and... Whoa! Oh my god. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, you were reading that correctly. This guy had to jerk off to one of those little pieces of perfection. It was the contrast between the feeling of being inherently inferior to him and his cuteness and innocence that made me do it. Jesus. It's like the Spartan concept of Eros, except the Erastes is a pathetic dork who can't even speak to his Eromenos, so he just runs into a corner and jerks off. This guy says PDA should be illegal. Whenever he walks around where he lives, he constantly sees couples holding hands, hugging, or kissing. Makes him really depressed, because it reminds him of how much I want to have a romantic relationship, and he'll probably never have one again. Wait a minute, if he had one before, why can't he get one again? And talented, and surprisingly rough and tumble, Vita Bathory. I sure hope somebody killed themselves because of this. Are you starting to feel bad about these people? Don't. Here's a guy talking about how he preys upon drug-addicted women to feel powerful. You know, exactly how they claim the Western whores prey on beta providers once they get their fill of cock. Hypocrisy? What's that? Why do women like abusive men so much? This shit again. Look, people, women don't like abusers, but they hate pathetic chodes more than they hate abusers. What women want is a strong, virile, and confident man who doesn't abuse them. That's best of all. Again, not to brag, but, myself. It's bullshit. I have to change the way I prefer to live to get pussy. If women don't appreciate my hentai collection, fuck them. How can you not hate women? Hate. I hate them.
Their stupid fucking smiles. They smile more because they live life on easy mode. They have no reason to be unhappy. All they have to do is walk into a room and the attention is on them. People cater to their whim just because they're born with vaginas. Meanwhile, I'm bullied throughout school, insulted by everybody. They contribute nothing to the conversation. They can say any useless thing, and they can because idiot men will eat it up. If you live 25 years without getting attention from women and you're still being nice to them, you're pathetic. Do you have any self-worth at all? There are exceptions to the women I hate. Fat women are not one of them. Disfigured women aren't like the rest. It's mostly a case-by-case basis. I won't be mean to women with serious medical issues. It's ironic, though, if I got cancer, they would be mean to me.
Now, how is a nice guy like that still single? What the fuck? Let's end on a positive note. Hope springs eternal. This guy claims that nobody is a virgin because every penis touches the inside of a vagina at least once. Their mothers. I'll leave it at that. Whew, that was exhausting. And a grand indictment of modern society that it can allow men to fail so badly. Unlike most iterations of Failsons, I really do care about these people and have sympathy for them. And the reason for that is, I basically was an incel at one point in my life. Now, this was years before the term existed in the mainstream, and many more years before it became a bizarre identity. But yes, until I was 20 or so, I genuinely thought I would never get laid or know a woman's love. That changed exponentially, and now a former incel like me is in a warm and loving relationship that not even a decade ago I never would have dreamed I'd have. So my advice to the incel is, guys, I know modern dating blows, we all know this, but there are good women out there. The question is, are you worthy of them? Are you fit? Are you strong? Are you urbane and cultured, well-read and talented? It doesn't matter what race you are or how tall you are. What matters is if you are a man worth having. And please, don't give me that, blue. Women suck. They offer nothing beyond the vagina. Shut up. Every country gets the kind of women that it deserves. If American women suck, chances are American men suck too. So what can be done about it? Here's a few suggestions. Number 1, stop identifying as an incel. I mean, even at my lowest point when I was basically one of you, it was always a stigma that I was desperately seeking to escape from by any means necessary. I didn't parade around identifying myself as an incel. It's like basing your identity around being a cancer patient. On a similar note, too, realize that you can escape. You can't change your face and you can't change your height, but you can change basically everything else. And really, despite the memes, not every Western whore demands a 6'8" Adonis with a 10-inch penis and a 7-figure salary. Number 3, start climbing out of the hole immediately. You can start right now. I always say that you should work on fitness first because you don't have to do it with anybody and you can do it in the privacy of your own home until you are sufficient. Then develop whatever else you would need. I would recommend my first book, that is to say if you incels wouldn't be mortified to read a book by an effeminate, weak Eurasian who's kicking your ass in all ways. Then play the field. You're not going to find the woman you're going to marry on your first shot. But you will probably get some, and that's step 1. That'll make you feel a lot better, trust me. You can't find the woman without sowing your oats and getting some practice, sad to say. And believe me, you will burn out on sex for its own sake if you're any kind of compassionate person. I did, but I also acknowledge that without playing the field, I would never have found the lovely Vita or developed the skills and personality to attract her. So hit the gym and hit the books. Become an interesting person and you'll find your woman problems will be much, much easier. Put these into practice for 1 year, then come back to me after that year and see if you're still an incel. You were planning on getting 1 year older, weren't you? Wouldn't you rather spend that year becoming a better man rather than cranking it out to anime? And finally, 4. If you're considering murdering people for the crime of getting laid, please don't. What are you, an idiot? I don't understand the logic of, I'm going to spurg out and murder people who get laid. This is how the beta uprising is going to start. I really hope none of my viewers are that stupid. I don't like seeing men fail, and I really don't like seeing innocent men and women being murdered by some autist. Pick up a barbell, not a gun. I'm Larson Halleck. Please start training. Alternatively, if you are an incel, might I recommend simplydating.com? If you find that Western women are just so awful, why not try the FSU, bringing women to you? It's very easy to do. Rhyming aside, go to simplydating.com using the affiliate link in the video description. Sign up today, and remember, the more you buy, the closer you'll get to finding her. Simply Dating.